Okay, so tonight I am talking about relating to your audience. So think about your topics that you speak on. Whether you have one or you have three or you only have two, it really doesn't matter. You want to make sure that you're relating to whatever audience that you are in front of. So to give you a couple of examples of what this could mean is, for example, I speak on body language. Now, when I am talking to a sales rep audience or entrepreneurial type audience, I know that, I need to be able to relate to them as an entrepreneur, as someone who, does their own sales and has worked as a sales executive. If I am in front of an HR audience like Sherm, I have to relate to them as their job as well. That, they're HR executives, they hire and fire people, they train them, they onboard them. And I have to be able to relate to that. And I usually will pull from my experience as being an HR executive back in my corporate days, or I will pull from my entrepreneurial realm as well when I have had to bring people on board and unfortunately let them go, and vice versa. So, you need to be relatable to your audience. So, a couple of the tips that I'm going to share tonight should help you with this as well. I do get from a lot of people, they'll tell me, well, I'm speaking to a tech conference next week or in 2 weeks, and I've never worked in the technology field. That's okay. You don't actually have to, but what you want to try to do is, find some commonality among those people that you're speaking to. So they feel that you are approachable, they can learn from you, that you kind of get their experience. So, for example, if you are speaking to a tech conference like this person was, and perhaps maybe with the tech crowd, you're doing your same presentation and you've never worked in the tech industry before, you don't really have a technical background, but you've worked at a larger company where they had an IT team or IT department, and you've obviously had to work and consort with them from time to time. So kind of think back and think about, okay, well, the times that I've had to deal with that IT team, what was it like? What was the experience like? Were they um, more straight to the point, only give them the bullet points, don't tell them a long drawn out story? What was it like for you to communicate with them and what seemed to work best? And kind of pull from that experience when you are communicating and you're talking and you're presenting to that particular crowd. So draw from the experience that you have. To give you a couple more examples of that, with my body language class, when I have done this for the HR executives, I'm always using and altering my PowerPoint to reflect, hey, when you are getting ready to fire someone or you have to let them go, and they just walked into the office at 9:05 and you're calling them into your office and you have to have that witness there because you're letting them go to sign their exit paperwork, and they get some type of severance package. Obviously, too, with that, I would tell them, hey, one of the things you want to make sure that you're watching out for, I would list different body language things that could escalate a situation. And then I would also share with them, hey, the day of that, don't wear yellow. Try to stay away from that color. It can instigate a fight, it can instigate tempers to flare, and that is an already heightened situation where somebody's fight or flight mode is already enabled. So that's something you don't want to do. So try to make your examples relatable to that audience. Even if you haven't really been in that audience, that's okay. One of the things you can do in that regard is do a little bit of research. So, for example, if you are going to be speaking at a SHRM or American Payroll chapter for your topic and you've never worked in that realm, you've always been an entrepreneur, or maybe you've been on the sales side and it's hard for you to relate to operations. What you want to do is you want to do a little bit of research on the SHRM site. Who are their members? What do they do at these specific companies? What are their biggest challenges? So that way, as you're uncovering all of this information, it's going to make it easier for you to provide examples during your presentation and let them know that even though you haven't worked in the industry, you get them. You understand where they're coming from. That's the biggest way to bridge that gap if you've never been in it. Another one that I find, I do speak to the construction industry a lot, wastewater industry treatment, and blue collar people. They're totally different than dealing with HR people, or payroll people. So I have to give more examples of, hey, when you are out in the field, And I kind of know this terminology because I grew up in an entrepreneurial home. My father was an electrician, and I went out in the field with him quite a bit. So I learned a lot about some of the lingo that they use. So I'm able to build that commonality there. But if for some reason I've never done that, then yeah, I want to kind of do some research and say, okay, well, with my body language class, how can I make some of the presentation slides or maybe some of the content that I have on there or content that I'm presenting, make it click for these guys so they really understand. Um, so again, I would go back, I would do research on that particular industry that you're going to go in and talk to and see what problems they're encompassing. Not that you have to spend a lot of time on that, maybe an hour tops, just, kind of reviewing the site, take a look at some of the feature members that they have, and really kind of dive into how could I relate to that person if I met them at a networking event? What would be one or two things that I would really want to know about them, whether it could help me or not, because the more you get to know your audience, the better. So the next thing I would tell you is once you kind of have those relatable stories, implement those into your PowerPoint. Even though with every show you do, you typically will need to do a new PowerPoint anyway, because the audience is going to be different. There may be requests from the meeting planner that they want you to add certain things in. So you could always reuse it later if you needed to, but just you're going to be altering every time you present ever so slightly. So make sure that you're implementing those. If you feel that the wording doesn't coincide with their wording, um, you keep in mind, again, you want to you want to be real, you want to be you, but in the same breath, you also want to be relatable. So to kind of give you an example, I speak quite a bit to the legal community. I do not have a college degree. I went for 3 years and said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I left. However, I enjoy learning. I love to learn and I go to the library quite a bit. I read quite a lot. So I have to find commonality because the people that I am presenting to and teaching are very, as far as education is concerned, they surpass mine with education. However, I still have something that a value that they can learn from and implement in their practice. So I have to find that commonality by being able to, number one, pull from, because I worked as a legal assistant too a long time ago, pulling from my experience from that, pulling from my experience from my friends and colleagues and clients who are attorneys, and relating, hey, this is how it could help you here, this is how it could help you in mediation. Did that take some extra time for me to learn? Absolutely. Was it well worth it? I feel that it is because I feel like I have a connection with them where they feel, okay, she understands me, she can make me laugh, and I'm learning something. So you definitely want to be as relatable as you can be, regardless of what the audience is, because keep in mind, no matter what the industry is, you have something of value for them and you can help them, but you have to be able to do that at their ground level, basically boots on the ground for those people who are in the military that listen. You want somebody on your side. I mean, think about that. If you were in combat, you want somebody right next to you that knows how to shoot a gun, that, has been in combat before. The more they know, the better. That way they have your back, you have theirs. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing I would tell you is, again, even if you don't feel like, hey, I just don't feel like I'm relating to this audience the way that I should, practice at it. If this is going to be, there's other opportunities for you to get booked and you have potential business in that audience, it's well worth it. I mean, even like with the wastewater treatment show, I've gone to that 4 years in a row. That is more for wastewater, people who are landscapers, contractors. And again, I had a contractor background because of my father. However, a lot of those people, it was a little hard to relate to because they do things like cleaning oil rigs or they're getting rid of, waste, actual waste, and they're, depending upon, they might work for the city of Charlotte or city of Miami or city of Orlando, that they have a certain job to do and they still have to deal with people. So I'm able to provide that value to them, but I've got to make it relatable to them. So even the first year I went, I purposely took my show pass and I spent some time on the showroom floor getting to know the people that go there. I collected all the magazines because I thought, hey, these are great writing opportunities for me, that I could write some, content and be more well known in this industry. And that was 4 years ago. So, and I've made plenty of money off of that industry. So keep keep that in mind. Never be intimidated by the industry that wants to hire you. You just have to figure out a way to make yourself relatable in your presentation and with the audience that's in front of you. So I hope that helps, and I hope everybody